And all of a sudden he says, I'm going to suck on your breast. I want to suck on
Well,
your
you
breast now.
stupid son of
And
a.
the guy gets up, jizzes all over us, or tries to,
It made
rather.
me feel like the both of us were connected
The
in
more I
some
looked at
way.
her, the more I came to realize.
He starts taking the blanket off. He takes off the sweater, and it's
And it got to the point it was like I had to go, I had to go outside, and somebody was saying, no, there's things wrong with Skyline.
I'm Christina Baez, and you're listening to The Subway Portraits. This is our first episode. So if you're listening right now, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy listening to these stories as much as I did. And if you like them, subscribe. On today's episode, I'll be sharing 7 stories that were submitted to us. These are going to range from someone's experience in the subway during 9/11, someone taking a risky dare, and another being reunited with a loved one. I think we should just jump right in. What a day.
So one day while I'm on the number 1 train, I'm standing there by the door and I happen to look to the side and I see this guy standing between the cars of the train. And I'm saying to myself, well, I hope he's okay because he was bleeding from his forehead. And he's struggling to open the door to come in to the wagon where we were at. At this point, everybody else is looking that way to where he's at because he's fumbling with the door, trying to open it. Something was not right. But anyway, he managed to open the door. He walked in. He starts walking to where I'm at, my way. He starts walking till he gets there. When he gets there, he's looking at me and looking at me. And all of a sudden he says, I'm going to suck on your breast. I want to suck on your breast now. So I'm saying, oh no, this guy has mental issues. There is something definitely wrong with him. So, I said, let me just walk away. Let me walk away. My stop is the next stop. I'll just get off and leave it at that. No, he kept harassing me and harassing me. This guy had to stand between me and him, defending me and telling this guy, why are you bothering this lady? Leave her alone. What's wrong with you? Are you okay? You're bleeding. What's wrong with you? No, he's just reaching over this guy, trying to grab onto me, trying to grab onto me. In the meantime, I'm moving to the right, moving to the left. Yeah, it was like a boxing match. But anyway, the train pulls into my station. I thank the guy that was helping me out. I run upstairs literally to catch the N train. And I managed to get up there and the train was pulling in. The N train was pulling in. I run into the train. I sit down, take a deep breath, and I said, oh my God. Oh, thank goodness. That's over with. I'm sitting there on the N train. And all of a sudden, there's a commotion on the next cart next to, to where I'm at. And I hear women screaming. I hear guys, like fighting and carrying on. I said, oh my God, now what? What's going on? I happened to look to the side, because the women's, they opened the door, they was crying, they was screaming. The guy had managed, I don't know if he was ran after me or what, but he managed to get on the train that I was on, the same guy I left on the number 1 train. And he's swinging and he's bleeding more from his head. He's cursing people out. And the people are running to the cart where I'm at. I'm getting up. I'm running to the following cart. When the train stops, I run out. Literally, I run up the stairs. I stop a cab and took my cab to work. I said, oh my God, what a day.
Unforeseen reunion.
About 20 years ago, maybe 19 years ago, I used to take the 1-9. There isn't even a 9 train anymore, but I used to take the 1-9 to work at my first job in Chelsea. And I was on the train one day and I saw a woman sitting across from me, and she looked familiar, and she was sort of glancing at me also, and I was trying to place why she looked familiar. And the more I looked at her, the more I came to realize it was my estranged aunt, my Aunt Rita, who I hadn't seen since I was a kid. My aunt had a lot of different kinds of problems, and drug problems and whatnot, and had stopped talking to my mother and the rest of our family, and a lot of people didn't really know her whereabouts. I was pretty sure it was her, but we didn't say anything to each other, and one of us, or I don't know who got off the train first, but a couple of months later, the same thing happened. I was riding the train. I saw her. I didn't think she saw me this time, but I got off the train, and we got off at the same stop, actually. And I approached her on the street corner, and I said hello to her, and do you remember me? And she started crying and hugged me, and we talked, and she asked how my family was and how my brothers were, and I asked her for her phone number because I figured my mom would want to talk to her and would want to, find out how she was doing. So she gave me her phone number, and a couple days later, I gave it to my mom, and a couple days later, when my mom tried to call, it was a wrong number. Didn't see that aunt again for probably 15 years. She showed up at my grandmother's funeral, and that was the last time I've seen her.
All Eyes on Me.
It all started in 1990s, late 1990s, on the F train platform in Delancey, waiting for the F train. I was waiting there. I was asked as a dare to sit on the platform, have my legs dangling towards the train tracks, and see how long I could wait before the train comes, how close it could get to my leg, blah blah. So I was like, okay, I'll take the dare, and I waited. Train's coming through the tunnel, see the lights. Like, okay, I'm gonna wait till it gets real close, do what I gotta do. Next thing I know, train's coming, hear it. Then I hear the brakes of the train. Conductor pulls up, pulls down the window, screaming, cursing. Looks like you play football, you stupid son of a bitch. You wanna be able to walk ever again, you're gonna be legless. How you gonna play then? He let me have it from there. So there I'm a little embarrassed. Then when I look up the platform, everyone that's waiting for the train is looking at me and looking at the situation and what was happening. So I came out of there with my legs intact and with this story to tell. It could have been a different story.
A Parent's Love.
All right. So I was at DeKalb Avenue station in Brooklyn, and I was on my way to Manhattan. And I got on the Q train, and there was this man next to me in the car, and he was just sitting holding his child, and his child had like a blanket and like a sweater over him, and he was just kind of like caressing it, and occasionally giving a little kiss on his head. And I was like, that's sweet. And I had my book out, whatever. After a few minutes, we had to go underground. It's a long ride. So after a few minutes, he starts taking the blanket off. He takes off the sweater, and it's a puppet, a bright orange fuzzy puppet on his lap. He takes out a brush and starts brushing it, starts talking to it, and still giving little kisses and caresses. And I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And again, we're underground. It's a long Manhattan. I'm like, what am I gonna I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should look. I didn't know if I should just mind my business and keep reading. But it was hard to ignore like this bright orange puppet. And how I really was so convinced that it was his child. in the beginning, and to realize that it was just an inanimate object, I was like, oh no. So we get closer and closer to the next station. He starts to stand up. He goes up to another person on the subway and starts like talking to him through the puppet. Um, it was just very weird, and I just automatically knew, I'm like, I don't really want to be here. I don't want to interact with this guy. It was just very strange. So I got off at the next station and went to a different car, and I didn't see that man again, but I just never forgot that because I really truly believed that he was with his child, and I was so convinced, like, oh, this is so sweet. Like he's like sitting there with his kid, like he seems to really like, they seem to have a good relationship, but like I mean, he has a good relationship with his bright orange fuzzy puppet, so.
Still to come, a strange connection, a person trapped underground, and a sticky situation. But before we get to those, if you're remembering your own personal experience on the subway, then share it with us on our site at www.thesubwayportraits.com. You can do it from your cell phone, your laptop, desktop, and your story can make it on the show. So join our community, help build this living history, and don't forget to subscribe and follow the podcast. You may hear your story in a future episode, and you wouldn't want to miss out on that. Literary connection.
Before the mandatory quarantine in 2020, I was on the Uptown 1 train. I was sitting next to this man reading a book while I was reading a book. It made me feel like the both of us were connected in some way. We were the only two on the train. I think of him from time to time. I wonder what he's reading now.
That eerie silence.
Okay, so on September 11th, 2001, I dropped my wife and my daughter off at my mother-in-law's house. I took the one train down to the city because usually I park my car at the parking lot. Then I take the train going to all the way down to the World Trade Center. Train stayed on the train, the one train up to 42nd. Was going to cross over to the 2 or 3 for the express. Decided to stay on the one for whatever reason. Just I was already running late, so what's what's the difference? So as the train went down to Chamber Street, the one train, the PA went on the speaker system, said the train would no longer go further. Then mentioned what was going on. Didn't know, so I actually just crossed over the platform and took the 2 train to get to Pine Street. So as I was going on underground, went to Pine Street, took that train into the I got off at Pine Street, and then we walked. As I was walking to the concourse level, one of my coworkers just kind of snuck up behind me, and she says, you're late." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not late. You're late because I know who your boss is. So you better hurry up and get to work." So as I was going from the train platform to the concourse area at the World Trade Center, the second plane hit. Huge vibration, shook everything. Cops are telling me to go back into the train station, so I went back into the train station. Did not know what was going on. Um, we waited just a little bit of time. It was eerily silent. There was a bit some light at the end of the exit. I waited for a few minutes, and then it got to the point. It was like I had to go. I had to go outside. And somebody was saying, "No, no, there's things falling from the sky." I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" So we waited little while longer, and it was eerily quiet. Walked out and right onto Church Street. Right across the street is the World Trade Center. Looked up, big hole in the building, smoke everywhere, and the rest is history. I mean, we all know what happened on that day. That was essentially my train ride. The first plane that already had hit, I wasn't aware of it until the second plane hit. So that's my most memorable experience on the train.
The wet seat.
So I was on the Q train with my friend, probably late 90s, early 2000s. And it was the Q train Manhattan bound from Sheepshead Bay. So we get on the train, and at some point, this guy is sitting in like the two-seater facing the back of the train. So I'm facing him. My friend is sitting in front of me. So she can't see him, but I see him over her shoulder. And I could have sworn he had his hands in his pants. And then I told her, and then she turned around and she's like, "No, I don't think so." And then she turned back to me, and then I was like, "I think that guy's jerking off." And she was like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, we get to Kings Highway, and the guy gets up, jizzes all over us, or tries to rather. He didn't get us. He jizzed in our direction and walks right off the train. And his jizz was on the seat next to me. And we were absolutely mortified. And then people started getting on the train. So Kings Highway on the Q train, Manhattan bound, is rather early in the route. So it's kind of empty ish. At least this on the day that we were on it, or the time that we were on it. Anyway, so people start going on. So we're like, yeah, you don't want to sit there. Don't sit there. And then at some point, the car starts to fill up. And we were just like, oh, well. And then eventually someone sat in it. But it was absolutely mortifying. And yeah.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed these stories, then hit subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Episodes are released every other Sunday. Ride with us. Until then.